that infrastructure of ideas, so to speak. The condemnation of hierarchy and domination as such, not only class and exploitation. The desire to create new forms of organization which are truly participatory in changing the world to produce a participatory democracy in society at large. The need to recognize the injuries of various status groups based on gender, based on ethnicity, based on age, based on a whole bunch of differentiations which cannot be simply explained in class analyses, of a traditional economistic sort. But the importance, at the same time, of creating a sense of universality and a new kind of rationality, which I would call dialectic. It doesn't have to be the one-to-one linear rationality, A equals A, period. See? But rather that things are always in a state of becoming, in a state of flux, becoming whole, enriched, assuming that the development is rational. If it's irrational, it can fall apart. Fragmentation is just as possible as integration. Those things are real. This is a kind of basic infrastructure, along with the idea that we have to achieve a new third nature, if you like, or free nature, by which I mean a truly collectivistic society in which people live in cooperation with each other and with the realities of the natural environment, including other life forms. Would you believe that I'm called anthropocentric for daring to suggest this? As though the only choices are either biocentric, so you have to say that human beings are no different than squirrels, at least in terms of their intrinsic worth, as biocentricity, or that I want to grab the whole earth for nothing but human beings and say that they are the king of all beasts. The supposition, incidentally, being that if human beings can think, they therefore have to command. Notice the thinking that goes on in these so-called deep ecology, mystical ecology, egalitarian notions. Suppose I were to say human beings are superior. Does it mean that they have to destroy everything around them? Does it mean that they have to be unfeeling? That they have to be uncaring? I just wonder at the way people think these issues out, you see. But now, I submit to you, we need a new politics now. And by a new politics, I don't simply mean the formation of more food co-ops, which tend to get either co-opted or else, become that is to say, they become an outright business, or else they fall apart. You have only to look at the career of Ben and Jerry's in Burlington, in Vermont, where I saw these two kids, churning out ice cream, and are now a huge multinational, and have been, fined, as you may well know, or as people may well know who live in Vermont, of being serious polluters of various kinds. All, to get one to eat these nice enriched pops, which I personally would regard as walking, a heart attacks on a stick. So this new green eco-capitalism, turns me off. Are we going to go back to a politics, green politics like the German Greens, which have now become such a completely stultified party that they're willing to work with the Christian Democrats, that is to say, the equivalent of the Reaganites in Germany, in order to get into higher office, and have been even repudiated by the Social Democrats, who say the Germans want jobs, they don't want to hear about the environment, we don't want to have anything to do with the Greens. Most people don't know that in the United States today. Do I want to become the equivalent of a left-wing Democratic Party person by calling myself a democratic socialist? I have only to read a number of articles by people who, well-meaning as they are essentially inviting us to establish market socialism. How do you like that for an oxymoron? Market socialism. Now, my argument is that we've got to get away, as millions of people in fact want to get away, from the whole party-type structure, the whole bureaucratic structure, and not simply organize co-ops and various types of communes, but very importantly, get into the public arena on the municipal level, on the local level, and actually run for city council with a view toward trying to establish and foment a feeling in favor of popular assemblies. Here in Burlington, Vermont, we have potentially, as a result of activities that I've been deeply involved in, 5 neighborhood assemblies. And in Vermont, we've had town meetings. The question is to vitalize them and to multiply them and to proliferate them in all the cities, towns, and villages of the United States. If one tells me that there are 8 million people in New York City, I agree. How are you going to have a town meeting there? I'll leave Ross Perot out of the situation, as you doubtless know. I believe in a face-to-face democracy. You break them up. You go ahead and you form them in all the different neighborhoods and all the different blocks if necessary, and then coordinate them through confederations in which delegates are simply mandated and could be recalled at the drop of a hat. And then people will, if there are people who still believe in decentralizing the society, and this is supposed to be a canon of ecological thinking, why is my view so absurd in their eyes? Now, my argument is that there are different ways in which we can now establish, by using even the city councils that we have, to relocalize power, decenter, as you'd like it, power into viable community groups that can be linked together through confederations, whether they are inside giant cities or whether they consist of small towns interlocked with each other in a genuinely democratic basis. And that confederalism, which has been thousands of years old and has always competed with the nation state, has as much vitality today as it had hundreds of years ago, be it in the town meetings of New England, as it had thousands of years ago, going back as far as Sumeria and ancient Greece. And I know what's wrong with all the old societies. I'm not trying to fall back on any past. I'm trying to take what are characteristics of earlier societies and use them in a new and integrated way for a future society. A society which is truly self-conscious and ecological and free of hierarchy and domination. And this is a very important issue for me. Has the breakdown of the Berlin Wall, has the Yeltsin experience doomed the idea of a cooperative society forever? Because Stalin perverted the ideals of socialism. Because Gorbachev did this or that. Because Yeltsin wants to restore private property. Obviously in the interest of a very distinct mafioso class in Russia today. Does Clinton, hobnobbing with the big industrialists as he did with the auto manufacturers, want to give us NAFTA, which will be a super empire imposed on everything else, a state on top of all the other states? Does this doom the ideal of human cooperation, of living together, of sharing with other life forms as well as ourselves, the planet in a creative, constructive way? Are we now to write off the possibility of culture and have a new TV kind of network, highway, whatever they call it? Is that going to replace human culture now? Does that end Shakespeare, Beethoven, Bach? Civilization to be written off, and the idea of living in a cooperative society can't be canceled out by thugs, be they Yeltsin, Gorbachev, and frankly, in my opinion, many of the people who are floating around the Clinton administration, including its most distinguished figures. If that ideal is gone, indeed, it'll be neither right nor left. It'll be right. And not only that, it'll be dragging us backward into an age of human anti-rationality, of human mysticism, of manipulation by the mass media, of engineering public consent, of reducing people, frankly, to zombies in which life has no meaning. You're going to die anyway,